Hello everyone, just Goran here and welcome back to another Planet Zoo real life inspiration video. As you can see, today we are looking at the Giant Anteater. This one was requested by Anteater Johnny. So if you want to see any animal before all the other ones, as we're going in alphabetical order, do leave a comment. I will always take them into account and I'll try to prioritize animals if people really want to see them. So without any further ado, let's get into some anteater habitats. So first of all, we have Amsterdam Zoo, or Artis. We got a beautiful lush habitat over here with some awesome trees all around, and we can see one of the backstages over here, but this is one of the more main viewing points. We got the very classic zoo, Amsterdam Zoo kind of fencing, but also an electric fence in front there to keep the anteaters away from that pretty low fence in the front there. Like, they could probably climb over that. I get the feeling that anteaters aren't the best climbers, judging by all the different kinds of barriers that we're going to be seeing throughout this video, but still, this one is ridiculously low and definitely not escape proof without that electric fence there. But yeah, the habitat itself is really pretty, very nice, lush, naturalistic vibes even in the middle of this city zoo. We also get a look at the backstage over here. I got a bit of a green roof on this black wooden little shack over here, and yeah, we get a nice view of the backstage. Very many of the habitats that we're going to be looking at today do have a backstage view, which is really cool. So next up, this is Avifauna, and Avifauna has a wonderful anteater habitat over here. I really like this one a lot. The entire kind of South America area here at Avifauna is really beautiful, but yeah, this one just takes the cake somehow. I just love how simple this barrier is. Like, there's a little moat, there's a little bit of a rock wall there. Apparently that's enough. Like, you'd think they'd be able to get out of there. The water is about, like, if I had to guess, like 1 meter deep-ish. And that's it. Like, the anteaters can't get... If they could, they would, right? So, like, I guess that's it. They are capable swimmers, from what I've read. So that's not it. It's just, I guess they can't climb over that little rock wall at the side of the water there. And yeah, for the rest of the enclosure, it just slopes up. You've got streams, you've got this beautiful bits of rocks, and yeah, just that stream over there is so good. I really like how this one looks. This is also a shared enclosure with the Darwin's Rhea and the Vicuna, so that's a nice little mix there. But after you go through like a whole tropical house, you get to the other side of this enclosure, and that is where there is a beautiful little aviary over here for a type of ibis, like the Puna ibis. I'm not sure, I didn't write it down, but we're not focusing on the ibis, we're focusing on the anteater that is in the ibis aviary over here. So the aviary is connected to the other habitat we just saw through their little indoor area all the way in the back, and the anteaters can go in and out. They can connect the two, they can open it up between the two habitats during breeding season, and when they're not breeding, the anteaters can be separated between these two enclosures that way, which is always important because they are solitary animals, at least that's what I've been told. You can also get up here, get a nice aerial view of the habitat that we saw earlier. I'm not a huge fan of this viewing point because it kind of ruins the effect of the waterfall, because here you can kind of see that it just spawns out of nowhere, whereas from down there it kind of looked like it was more naturally cascading down some kind of hill. But it's a cool viewpoint nonetheless. So next up we have the Zoo of Dunkirk, Bio-Topia, and they also got a nice little South America area, and over here is the anteater habitat. So we can see these climbing frames. Those are actually for the coati, and then at the bottom is a nice habitat for the anteaters. Just peeking over the fence here, you can see it's pretty lush. It still has to grow in. This area also feels pretty new, which is a theme for this episode. A lot of these anteater habitats are actually very recently built, it feels like. But yeah, you got these nice little viewing points kind of peeking into the habitat, poking into it, and over here the anteaters can get into a backstage area, which once again we got a very clear indoor viewing. And what I think is really interesting, you can see that shelving in the back there. I think that's like a like a play sand pit or a pool, but they just have that there for the anteaters. Probably they will fill it with water and to give them like a little makeshift pool or something. And yeah, just look at that. They're so cool. I love these animals. And there's even more windows over here to get to the other indoor habitat. So you can see they have several cages, a bunch of backstage stuff there, all the backstage goodness to see. But that's it for Bio-Topia. So next up is Bouillon, and here at Bouillon we got, I didn't have a lot of time here, so I didn't record these very thoroughly, but they are not really too special to begin with. I mean, they're not bad habitats necessarily, they're just a bit bland. I mean, you just got a grassy field with some trees in it, a couple of bushes. Nothing really to write home about here, so yeah, let's just move on to Zoo Dortmund. And Dortmund is actually the coordinator of the breeding program of the giant anteater, so that is pretty cool. And in their indoor building, you can see all these little sticks across the ceiling. Why are they there? Well, this is also a sloth enclosure, and this is the coolest thing that ever happened to me, and I just shoehorned it into this video to brag about it, basically. But there's a bunch of little smaller habitats around here, like that one, which is for the kinkajou, which I didn't see, sadly, and then a bunch over here for the giant anteaters. So yeah, you can see that the sloth sticks kind of go through a little hole in the wall, and they also are able to climb around the top of these enclosures as well, which I think is really, really cool. And yeah, we got the anteaters. They got a little tub, a little path. It's a little bit janky, but charming, I guess. I don't know. It seems like a pretty old building that they kind of just fit the giant anteaters into, but it's not bad at all. This is just their indoor holding, of course, and they're able to freely go outside, as you can see in the back there. The gate is open. I just love the little dog, the dog sleeping things. That is just so cute. But yeah, they also have an outdoor enclosure, of course, so as you leave the building. There's also Tamandua over here, which is of course a bit of a smaller anteater, so it's kind of cool to have all of that connected in a way. But as you follow this road over here, you get to the outdoor yard. And here you can really see like just these large mesh fences. Like, I don't think they're very great climbers. What is a great climber though is in the back we can see an outdoor part for the sloth as well, which you don't see very often. So I thought that was really, really cool. I know this isn't a sloth video, but we already have a sloth video, and I just want to point out how cool this sloth enclosure is. So anyway, the anteaters have a nice little bath over here. This is kind of the other side of their outdoor yard. And yeah, this is it. So that is almost it for Dortmund, but there actually is a second enclosure in this zoo for the anteaters, which is kind of to be expected. This is the backstage for that second habitat, by the way. It's kind of to be expected because, you know, they are the coordinator of the breeding program, so it's logical for the coordinator of a breeding program of a certain animal to have multiple habitats for that animal, so they have extra space to keep extra individuals if they are waiting to be put into a different zoo, or another zoo doesn't have space for them anymore or something. It's good for the coordinator to be able to take them in like that. Anyway, here we are in the Zoo-Duisburg, and Duisburg has a pretty simple habitat for the anteaters as well. This is a shared enclosure with the South American tapir, and yeah, we can see pretty simple. Of course, it is winter, so it's a bit more bland and barren. There seems to be a lot of bushes in here that would look very nice during the summer, but not at the moment. And yeah, I didn't see the anteaters here. I only saw the tapir, which are lying under that little shelter over there. There's just another view into it. So yeah, pretty simple, nothing too special here. But that is it for Zoo-Duisburg. So let's move on to the next zoo. And the next zoo is going to be GaiaZoo, and GaiaZoo might actually be one of my favorites for this video. So we're walking into this shelter, and look at all the ant decorations over here on the walls. It's so cool. But yeah, in here we have a view of the indoor area, as we have almost come to expect at this point. There are so many of them. But yeah, you can see there's a second backstage in the back there. They can separate the anteaters if they so need to. There's a pool. There's a little straw bed for them over there. So this is kind of, compared to Dortmund, where they just had a tub, here it's actually kind of integrated into the enclosure, which of course looks a little bit better in my opinion. And then we've got this beautiful, beautiful lush enclosure over here with a beautiful stream, which you can't really see because of how overgrown it is. So I'm quickly going to go like back a year in time in a second to show you that stream a little better. But we can see it flowing over here. But yeah, here you can see a little bit better without the grass all overgrown. But now we are going into the aviary, because the outdoor enclosure for the anteaters is actually inside of this walk-through aviary, which I think is so cool. So there's kind of birds just flying around you here. There's bird poop on this this fence that I'm leaning on, and my entire arm was covered in bird poop, so that was a little bit less exciting. But it just looks so cool. It's such a beautiful enclosure. I love it a lot. Next up, we are at Cologne, and this is also quite a nice enclosure. I think this is definitely one that suffers a lot from it being winter when I visited, because it has a lot of like mesh fences with hedges and bushes all around it. So right now it looks super barren and kind of ugly, but I feel like in the summer, when all of these plants are nice and green and lush, it would look really cool. So that's a little bit of a bummer, but we just saw a sign with not an anteater on it. That's because this is a shared enclosure with the Chilean poodoo. So we can see they do have like the anteater enrichment stuff, so I think most of these yards are shared. I think some of them might be just for the poodoo or just for the anteater, but I definitely do feel like they have shared sections in here. But yeah, you're walking all the way around these enclosures, and you get to see the animals from many different angles. And over here we can spot the poodoo all the way in the back there. So yeah, they're pretty cool, cute little deer type thing. I'm not sure what they are exactly. Yeah, then we have an indoor viewing as well with this weird kind of roundish building. I don't know why I called it weird, it's just cool. And two nice large windows where you have the anteater right there, which was actually being really quite curious. In general, I feel like I'm quite, I don't know how lucky I am to see so many active anteaters, but I generally do see them being quite active quite a lot. And yeah, this one was being absolutely funny. But yeah, next up we have Zoo Krefeld, another German zoo, which also has a pretty nice lush habitat in this beautiful forested area. And it also starts off with a bit of an indoor viewing over here. So we got this pretty interestingly shaped hut with this kind of diagonal-ish window, which I feel like is there to prevent glare. I feel like that's why you would angle a window like that, but it wasn't really helping because it was still really glary. And then here on the indoor area, the staff area, we can kind of see a passage for them to get from one side to the other, the anteaters. They can probably close that or open that to divide them or let them together if need be. And then this is their outdoor habitat, which once again, beautifully lush. In the winter less so, but it does allow you to see the enclosure a little bit better for those who are interested. So you can just pause that to take the screenshots. And then here from the other side, you can see the backstage in the back there. Pretty cool habitat. I'm quite a fan. Next up, we have Monde Sauvage. It was a bit misty when I was here, as you can see. But this is the South America area, which is like Maine wolves, tapirs, all sorts of stuff. We're here, of course, for the anteater, which have a nice large yard over here. It's actually really spacious. There's even a second yard of a similar size kind of behind the building over there, which we'll kind of take a look at in a bit. But yeah, this is quite nice, lush habitat. There weren't any anteaters to see, sadly. And over here is the tapir habitat. I don't think these habitats are shared. The tapir is shared with a bunch of other animals, which we'll see in the tapir video. But yeah, this zoo also has a car safari. You don't go through the anteater habitat. That would have been really cool. But you do drive past it like this, so you can see a bit more of it. And especially in the back here, it's super lush. You really get those kind of grasslands vibes, which I think anteaters also live in grasslands. So that's pretty cool. I like that vibe over here. And then here we can also see the second enclosure. You can see it kind of connects up in the back there to that same backstage sort of area. But they do have two separate large enclosures for them. So yeah, pretty cool, pretty nice. And that's it for Monde Sauvage. So next up we have the Allwetterzoo Münster. I completely butchered that, I already know. But this is, once again, as I said, fairly new enclosure because it's still being built. This is kind of inside a tropical dome, and this is a shared tapir anteater enclosure, so you can see more of that dome. and more of their enclosure. There's two sides of this, so they can separate the tapirs. The anteaters weren't in here at the moment, but they are signed, and there's also this thing over here, which is definitely for the anteater, because this is something that the keepers can put food into, and then you'd be able to see the anteater use their tongue through that little glass thing. I really want to see that in action. That would be so cool. But yeah, as you keep going, over here you can see it's still under construction. The walking path will continue along into their outdoor area, but this is kind of the standalone anteater enclosure. They've got some fake termite mounds, which they can put food into as well, and the anteater was kind of in the back. Here we can see their outdoor habitat under construction. I don't know if I like it that much. I'm not a huge fan. It looks a little too faux. Maybe once there's a bunch of foliage in there, I hope there will be a bunch of foliage in there, that would improve it, but at the moment not too big of a fan. But yeah, this is Zooparc Overloon, and this is just a beautiful indoor enclosure, absolutely awesome. You can see they have more space in the back as well, if they want to be off exhibit or if they need to separate the anteaters. But yeah, just look at all those faux rocks, the plants, the paintings. This is just absolutely, I love the vibe of Madidi, which is the area that we're in. This is the greenhouse of Madidi, but Madidi is kind of the entire South America area, Zooparc Overloon. And here we are at the outdoor enclosure. We can see the trees and stuff are quite protected. I don't know if that's for the anteater or the other animals in here, which is the rhea. Also note the kind of logs in the back. We'll see more of that later. There's a ton of education around here about logging, and that's why there's a little house there which displays like a news broadcast about all the logging and how the rainforest is dying. We can also see a rhea over there, Darwin's rhea once again. But main feature here that I want to point out is this awesome little truck which has all the logs inside, which has education about the rainforest and about how much is being cut down and horrible things. But then over here you can see there's a viewing area, because the inside of these logs is actually a little shelter for the anteaters. So that's just so cool. I love that so much. Awesome little feature over there. And yeah, you can go all the way around this to see more and more of the habitat. And even further along the area is a second habitat, which can be connected up to the other one. I'm not sure how it works exactly, because I've never seen the rhea in this enclosure, and I've never seen the capybara, which are in this enclosure, in the other one. But yeah, it is both for the anteaters, and then you also have the rhea and the capybara, which might also be able to go between the two, I don't know. Next up we have Pairi Daiza over here, and Pairi Daiza, the anteater enclosure, is kind of in the old section of the zoo, so that's why we have all of these kind of very old buildings of the monastery that Pairi Daiza is built around. This is also a shared enclosure with the capybara and the tapir. I didn't actually see the anteaters, I only saw those two, but it's really cool that they have kind of this natural, kind of natural looking body of water. I'm not sure if it's actually connected to a stream or anything. And then over here is a separate holding. I think this is more for the tapir, judging by the big pool over here. But the anteaters could walk into this if they go through that open gate. So yeah, that's it for Pairi Daiza. Pretty cool enclosure. I like the river kind of effect there. And then we have Zoo Planckendael. We're almost done here, everyone. One more after this. And this is I really love this enclosure as well. It's very natural looking with all the wooden things strewn about, a wooden building in the back as well. Nice and lush once again. We are in a forest after all. There's also these taller glass viewing areas, so you can get actually all the way up to the glass. And we can see the little feeders over there. Those are definitely for the anteaters. They would use their tongue to get in between all those cracks. That's really, really cool. There's also the indoor viewing, which they recently kind of blocked off. They've got this kind of painting sort of thing over the window, so you only have these little holes to look through to give the anteaters a bit more privacy. And understandably so, because they do have a baby. So we can see a little baby anteater over here climbing on top of its mother. I presume it's the mother. And yeah, that was just super, super adorable. There's also another viewing area into the enclosure we just saw, so we can see more of that pool. This is a shared enclosure with the agouti. I think this is the black-rumped agouti, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong there. And yeah, you can see the anteater going out there. Really interestingly shaped building. It's not quite straight. There's a bit of a curve to it. There's more viewing areas into the second yard as well, and I really like these viewing areas that kind of just give you a real step into the enclosure. We can see another one of those feeders. Yeah, just more logs and things and natural elements strewn about. I feel like this habitat is also connected to the vicuna habitat that is beyond it, but I've never seen the anteaters in there, so just to cut this video a little short, try to keep it in a reasonable amount of time, we're moving to the next zoo, which is Zie-Zoo. And from all the zoos that we've seen, Zie-Zoo definitely has captured the grasslands vibe the most. They have a beautiful, ginormous enclosure for the anteater over here, which is shared with capybara and lesser rhea, or Darwin's rhea, whatever you want to call them. But just look at the size of this enclosure. And when I first saw this in the real life zoo tours that we did of Zie-Zoo, it was an okay enclosure, but now that I went back again this year, just with all this grass grown in, it looks stunning. I actually really like this one a lot. There's also these smaller separation yards over here where they are shared with the agouti, and you can walk right between the two yards, and there's even a little tunnel connecting the two. But yeah, we got a nice little pool, some shelter for the agouti and the anteater, and then down here we can see the tunnel that brings the anteater under us, and there's actually one under us right as we're filming this, but yeah, of course we can't really see that. There's an indoor area as well over here. You kind of go through this tunnel, which is super loud because of the macaws that are also in this building. But yeah, you can see the anteaters have their own little spaces, and a more shared space over there on the left, which is a lot larger. Has some nice plants in the barrels to protect them from the anteaters. Little pool in the middle there. It looks pretty cool. I'm quite a fan of this one. It's not very naturalistic, the inside, but it does look interesting and neat. And then here we have the outer yard from the other side, and we're gonna take a bit more of a lap around the huge enclosure, because there is even more to see, because it goes on forever, because we have the path that we were walking, but there's also this huge lake over here with these slightly less appealing islands in the middle, which aren't even used at the moment. They're supposed to be for spider monkey, but the spider monkey are still in another enclosure. But the lake is really cool for the capybara, because you can sometimes see them swimming around in there, so that's just super cool. And yeah, just more views of this amazing grasslands, and well, this well. And that's it for Zie-Zoo, and that's it where we're gonna end off this video. So I hope you got some anteater inspiration today, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.